Hey everyone, David Code, the Core Real Estate Group, here to drop some knowledge on you about the home buying, selling, investing process. And today we are going to touch on a really important topic, and that is home inspections. So, as a buyer or an investor, you finally found the perfect house, you put it under contract, you're in escrow, and now you've got an inspection contingency. Well, which inspection should you do? Well, there's a lot to pick from, and I'm going to cover a lot today. Not all are necessary for every single home, but you definitely want to make sure that as you're going through and inspecting the property, that you're getting the proper inspections done and identifying problems before you close escrow, where you can still negotiate with the seller about those problems before you close and inherit all those issues and have to solve them all on your own. So let's get started. The first one is the general home inspection. Now, this one's the most important. All right, a general home inspector is going to come and kind of do a review of all major systems. So the roof, the foundation, the windows, plumbing, electrical, appliances, everything. And while a general inspector isn't an expert in any one particular system, they are a general expert and can identify where they see a problem, and more importantly, where they see a problem that's worth investigating further. So a lot of times we'll kind of start with a general inspection, and then from there, we'll then go through some of these other inspections only if the general inspector recommends it. Now, one that we do almost all the time is a sewer or a septic inspection. If the house has septic, it's automatic. You absolutely need to check the septic. But even if it's a home, even if it's a newer home, it's worth getting the sewer inspected, right? For a sewer inspection, they actually go through and put a scope into the sewer line and make sure the pipe is clean all the way out to wherever the city service is. If there is a problem, it might be something that's fairly minor, or it could be something that's really major, and that's a big ticket item that you would want to know before you released your inspection contingency. Termites, pests is another big one, especially here in Southern California. If you do have termites, or if there's evidence of rodents or other small animals, right, this is the time where you want to make sure you can go back and negotiate with the seller, especially if the house needs to be tented. Whenever you get a termite report back, you'll get Section 1 and Section 2 items. Usually Section 1 items are things that are a problem right now. The house needs to be tented. There are termites. There is wood rot. There is damaged wood that needs to be repaired or replaced. Those are usually things that we can ask for credits for from the seller. The Section 2 items are usually more recommendations on what you should do to the home to prevent there being a potential termite issue in the future. And again, just good information to know as a homeowner so you don't have some kind of big termite repair bill down the line. Next up is a roof inspection. A lot of times we'll kind of gauge that based on the property. If the property looks older, or the roof looks like it's damaged, or if on the inside you can see there's been evidence of leaks, then this might be one that we kind of organize right from the start. Have a roofer come out, check the integrity of the roof, make sure they don't see any evidence of leaking, and more importantly, if there is a problem, is it something that can be repaired or replaced? Because the difference in those two from a cost standpoint are huge. For mold is one that, again, we don't always do, but if there is a history of water intrusion or evidence of water intrusion, like from a roof leak, it might be worth getting a mold test done just to make sure that there isn't mold in the property. Or there are some people that just are naturally affected by mold and bacteria more than others. And if that's you, then the couple of $100s that it's going to be to get a mold test done is well worth it. Even if it's just to get the peace of mind that there isn't any mold in the house. HVAC is a very specific one. If they run the system during your general and it sounds funny or it smells funny, or if the system just looks like it's really, really old and past its useful shelf life, it might make sense to have a professional HVAC contractor come out, look at the machine, and see if it's something that maybe the machine is older, but it's still in great shape and it just needs a little bit of maintenance before, or just to keep it going for another, 10, 20 years. So HVAC inspections are one of those ones that you kind of play by ear based on what you find in your general or what you see in the property. Same thing with a chimney. Obviously, if there is one, and especially if it's an older home, if the firebox looks like it's been used, it's wood burning, it's almost mandatory. They're going to check the box, they're going to check the flue, they're going to check the chimney itself for cracking, making sure it's covered. What you don't want to do is either have something where there's a fire risk, or almost more dangerous is if there's a risk of gas coming into the house and not venting out when you're running a fire. So this is a very important one to get done if there is a chimney on an older home. Pools and spas are almost automatic if there is a pool and spa, unless it was a newer home, like brand new. Even on a newer home, you still want to have them come out. Structurally, it's probably in great shape with the pool and the coping and everything else, but making sure the equipment works, maybe as important as making sure that any safety measures that should be on the pool to protect accidental drowning are in place. And if they aren't, what they recommend for you to do as a homeowner to protect your family, your friends from some kind of injury in the pool. An electrical inspection, probably just if the general calls for it. If they see an older system, maybe a really old fuse box, just can tell that the system is older. This might be worth making sure you don't have some kind of electrical problem. Same thing with plumbing, right? Probably not necessary on newer homes unless the general inspector sees it. But, if they go underneath and they can see a bunch of old iron, cast iron, and steel, not copper or plex, then they may recommend you have a plumber come out and do some additional inspections. Lead and asbestos is really only on properties that were built before, 1975. If it was built before 1975, more than likely you have lead paint and you have asbestos. But you might want to test it just to make sure that there isn't something where it's actively kind of falling apart or crumbling. Generally, lead and asbestos are fine as long as you don't disturb them. But if you're looking to maybe expand a room and there's an old HVAC closet that you're going to use and it's got that old acoustic sprayed in it, more than likely there's asbestos in there, and you should know, because that could vastly impact how much you would spend on repairing, or doing whatever renovations you were going to do. If the house was built after 1978, these items are outlawed after that. These aren't necessary. Radon is kind of a newer one. I have done a couple of properties that have had radon. Radon's a gas that just exists in the earth, and it's always there. But at higher levels, it is known to cause lung cancer, and there are ways of, kind of remediating radon. You obviously can't take it out of the ground, but what you can do is they can sometimes put some kind of vapor barrier on the house, and at least as radon kind of releases, it'll move around that and release on top of the home versus coming directly through your house. Soil stability is really only if the property had slope, if there's retaining walls, something where, there's other than a flat piece of land, it's probably not necessary. But even if the parcel was flat and you planned on maybe expanding on the property, maybe adding a second story, it might be good to have a soil engineer come out and make sure that whatever you're thinking of doing, that the soil can hold it. But if there's any sloping and retaining walls, you absolutely want to get this done to make sure that those are still stable and you're not at risk of a landslide coming down and doing more damage to the property. A foundation inspection is usually one that we don't do unless there's evidence. If we can see or feel sloping in the property, the windows are moving, the doors don't close, we can see cracks in the concrete. If we can physically see something, then absolutely you're going to want to have a foundation expert come out, a structural engineer, and make sure that the home, every home slopes a little bit as it gets older, but if it's on the verge of having major issues, you would rather know it now. Sometimes repairs on this can be fairly minor, but sometimes these can be really major if there's a big problem, and you would rather know that when you're in escrow than waiting until you're the homeowner. Crawl space and attics are, again, kind of, maybe, as necessary. Attics sometimes are good for insulation, right? To make sure that the home is being properly insulated. If it's an older home, you may want to go through and spend some money on insulation when you buy it, if for no other reason, just to keep your energy costs down. But it's also a great place to look at the roof, right? Sometimes you can see things from underneath the roof that you can't see on top of the roof. And on a crawl space or a basement, really what you're mostly concerned with is moisture intrusion. If there's any mold or wooden rot, anything like that, if your house has these items or it's an older home, these might be, recommended inspections. So that's a pretty comprehensive list. Again, not all of these are necessary, but there are a couple of here that are pretty mandatory, and certainly recommend that if you're in escrow and you're about to make a really, really large investment into your future wealth, that it's worth the time and the cost to properly inspect your home and identify any issues that might be prevalent before you close escrow and inherit them on your own. So I hope you like this video. If so, please subscribe below. We are trying to release more and more of this content on the home buying process. And of course, if you have any questions about your situation, well, we would love to talk to you and walk you through the process. So please feel free to reach out to myself or one of the agents on the team. David Code, the Core Real Estate Group. I hope you're doing well and hope to talk to you soon.